So in the last classes, we saw how to create sites and all the site related activities, like how creating a site and then adding users to the site. Um, and then when you add multiple sites, assign multiple sites to your user, how does his login behave differently, and how to flip from one site to another when you have a user assigned with multiple sites. And also we saw how to create a site admin and how to create a normal site user, and then how they are different. And also we saw in general creating an admin user or creating a normal interactor user, and then how those two users are different when they log in, and how um, they see different pages. When you log in as an administrator, you actually see these admin screens, admin pages, these over here. And when you log in as an interactor who's not an admin, you only see the content part of it. So we also saw how to create projects and all the project related activities. By that I mean adding a project and then adding publishing reports into the project, and then also assigning um, I'm sorry, moving objects from one project to another. So we saw all these activities, how we can perform, and also how we saw how we can delete a particular project in case we do not want it anymore, or even delete a site and the users. Okay. And also we went back to the configuration window, and then as I mentioned, you don't really have to do all the configuration initially when you're installing and configuring your server. So in the initial configuration, it's okay if you just set up the user ID and the password, and set up the uh, user ID and the password, and then we can go ahead and then with all the other tabs we can actually come back and then do the configuration. Yeah, the other one more thing that you would have to do initially is the authentication process. Whether we're going to do local authentication or we're going to use the Active Directory. So those are the things that you need to do first for the first time, and then we can come back whenever we want and make the changes to the configuration, um, or Tableau configuration, by coming back to this window here. So we saw how we can set up in the data connection tab, how we can set up what kind of caching that we would want, either something that refreshes less often, which is good for underlying data. If it doesn't change often, then this one is good. And the balanced, where you can specify how long you want the cache to be maintained and before it's refreshed. And also there's another option which says refresh more often, which means their cache keeps getting refreshed every time a page load happens. So this can be um, not I mean, this could be probably something that might decrease your performance because of the because of the frequent refresh of your cache. Okay, so we also saw where we can go ahead and subscribe for the email alerts and the subscription tab. So we probably will look at it a little later, how the user can actually subscribe to the view and all those things. Um, and also we saw this is the same thing, how to configure for the email subscriptions. And then we saw where we can go ahead and apply the SSL certificates. In case you want to do your, and generally you would want to do your server as an local, as a secure HTTPS connection. So you will have to actually go and buy some um, the certificates from the trusted authorities like Verizon or GoDaddy, and then place them into this specified folder here, and then you can come back to the screen, this window, and then just navigate to the respective folder for these files, and then you would be set up for HTTPS connection. So things to be remembered, things to points to be remembered is one of them is that the server it acts all your non-SSL port requests would be automatically redirected to port for SSL port 443. And also the other point you need to remember is that Tableau Server only supports 443 as the secure port, and if there is any other system or the application which is using this port, then Tableau cannot use that. Okay, and we also saw a couple more other things which are like which are to be noted. One is the system. All the settings that you do are system wide, which means if you have multiple sites now um, in your installation, all the sites would be affected by any setting that you change that you do. And also, the user authentication is permanent. What that means is, the moment you select either user local authentication or Active Directory, it becomes permanent for that installation. So if you want to change it later on, you will have to uninstall, reinstall, and then make the change. So, and the also we saw how you would want to come back and reconfigure, and also you can go to the Windows and then bring up your configure dialog box, and then you can make all your configurations, and then you can go back and start your server. Also, we saw we had an introduction to the processes. We saw what each of the processes um, does, and then how does it perform, what are its performance characteristics. And again, these are all 8.0 architecture, so which 32-bit some of them. So in 8.1 you have all 64-bit architecture. So we saw what's an application server, a backgrounder, and a backgrounder takes care of all your refreshes. So we in this session probably we're gonna look at how we can create an extract, and what exactly is by what do you mean exactly by extract. We will see that, and then um, that, among other things, later in the session. And also in the last session we saw what we just discussed what data engine is. Um, so it is the one which take all the workloads. So whatever SQL generates, it is taken by the data engine. Uh, and it really queries the extracts and all those files, and whenever it's doing that, it takes up a lot of memory. And we have a data server, and also we have on the PostgreSQL, which is actually the Tableau's repository, which means all the users that you're creating, the workbooks that you're publishing, and all these things actually go into the PostgreSQL database. And also we saw what's WSQL. WSQL is basically the one that renders and loads the dashboards for us. It can be CPU bound if there's a lot of interaction. We have a lot of interactive reports published, and people are logging in and doing all the interactions and changing the views very often. Then you can see that the memory it might use a lot of memory. Okay, and we also saw how what exactly this we can reconfigure the processes. We can say how many SQL servers we want to be running on this machine, how many application servers we want to be running in this machine, backgrounders, and then the data server and data engine. So this is again in the configurations tab itself. Okay, so I think what we can do now is we can again come back to the web interface of Tableau and then see some of the actions that you can perform on this. And also let's actually create another dashboard and publish it, and then um, use that dashboard to actually understand a little bit more about the web interface of the server. Okay, so here we are. This is the Tableau server web interface. Let's now go back to the Okay, so before that, let's create another folder, the project folder, which we had deleted yesterday. So we probably can go ahead and create another one to be used today. Okay, let's call it sales again. Okay, so now we have a new project called sales. And let me just start. Okay, so let's now go ahead and create a new dashboard. So I am going to connect to the Superstore subset. Okay. So now we saw that I connected to the Superstore subset Excel data source, and then I've got all my dimensions and measures coming up over here automatically into the respective sections, and and then let's now create a dashboard, a couple of sheets and dashboards, and include some interactions within that. And meanwhile, you can also look at some of the features that Tableau Desktop has to offer. It is always good to know the development environment of a tool as well, because it will always help even if we are doing admin activities on the server. It will always help to know how we can how a particular functionality of this tool works, so that it's easier for us to understand at the later point of time when if we run into some issues and how to resolve those. Okay, so now this is the data source, and these are the dimensions and measures that we have. So in general, if we are looking at a company's performance, I would always want to see what's my sales and how's my sales and profit. Those are the two main driving factors that I would have um, in my dashboard. And also I could see it in various different by group, various different dimensions. So I might want to look at it at a customer segment level, or I might want to look at it order priority or a department level sales. So let's go for a department level sales information. So So I have this department level sales information. So meanwhile, you can see that how convenient it is in Tableau to really build a dashboard with all the nice little features that Tableau provides us, um, like the sorting here. Okay, and then let's just do as we did earlier in our session. I'm going to color this by profit. So when you color this by profit, what it says is basically my technology is my highest selling and my highest profit making because of the dark green color, whereas furniture is my second largest selling, but it is not my second largest profit making, because it's a really light shade of green. And if you see office supplies, even if it doesn't sell so much, I mean, it's the third largest selling, but even then, it's making me decent profits. It's giving me the second largest profit that I have in all the departments. Well, three in this case. Okay, so let's now have this as one of our sheets, which is the department sales. Okay, so let me go here and then create another sheet, and I'll do a I'll do an item level sales now, which is more of a detailed reporting. I might not always want to see this, but then I'll go ahead and create it anyway. So okay, let me do it the same way. Color it by profit. Again, you're seeing here. I mean, some of them have turned red. Because that's because some of my items are really making losses. So which is not a great thing that need to be looked into. Item sales. Okay. So I have two dashboard, two reports here, basically a department level sales and the item level sales. So what I can do is actually, I'll just go to the dashboard. Okay, I'm going to drag this in, department sales on the top, and my item sales at the bottom, right? Let's just drag this a little here because I don't really have too many item departments over here. And let me just give a title to this, which is sales dashboard again. Okay, and you have this small little formatting things, which you can always do. You can just go to format title and add a border to it, if you want. You can shade it if you want. Okay, and you can format each and every object that's available over here. Okay, so let me keep this here. Let me also get the color legend from this sheet here. Okay, and if I want it to come right next to this sheet over here, this view over here, I can just pull the blank and put it here. And then I can okay. Yep. So we have our dashboard, a very simple dashboard here. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to have some interactions. So what do we mean by interaction? So I've been talking about interactive dashboards when there isn't more lot of interaction on the server and all those things. So what does it actually mean? So very simply, interactions could be filtering or sorting or any of these things, drilling down or drilling up or things like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is Tableau gives us this very neat functionality called use as filter, which is basically there is another feature called action. So actions could be of three kinds: a filter action, a URL action, and you can also have an highlight action. So I'm going to use the filter action. Okay, so I'm just going to say use as filter. So what I've just done is I've used this sheet of mine, which is the department wise sale, and I'm going to use that as a filter on my second sheet here, which is the item level sales. So let me just go and click over here, technology, right? So you see that the sheet over here at the bottom level sheet, this has got filtered only on the technology items, right? So now I'm seeing only the items which belong to the technology department. If I don't want to see that, I want to see the furniture, I can just click on it and then just click furniture here, and then you see only the furniture coming up. So that's the interaction. So let me just go ahead and put the labels on this. So I can do this, I can do this, and I can also do it another way. Let me show you. Very simply drag the sales onto the label. Okay, drag the sales onto the label and just go and format it if you want. So you can change it to have single decimal place and then a unit as million. Okay, and since it's currency, I should have gone for currency standard, I'm sorry. So let me do the same thing here, just so that, and I'll say million. So it will show me 2.3 million, 3.2 million, etc. I can do the same thing for the axis as well, right? So I'll just go and say currency custom 1 million. So there you have. Okay, and I can do the same formatting over here. Drag the sales onto the label. Sales onto the label, and then I'm going to do the formatting on the sales. I may make it million here. The same way, let me change it to million here as well. I don't think I can change it to million because it's pretty less, because when it gets filtered on a certain department, it can really be less, a small number. So I'm going to keep it in thousands, and let me probably move this as well to thousands. Okay, so now we have this dashboard and we have interactions built in this. So let's go ahead and save this. So I'm going to save this as TPT item saves. Okay. So now you see that I'm saving it as a TWB. Okay. I'm going to save it. Yeah. So we have saved it as Tableau, as a department item sales workbook. Okay. So let's now go back to the sheet and see what is exactly um, meant by extract. Okay, so now this is a live connection. So if I want to make this as a extract, so as we discussed earlier, a live connection will always be connected to the database. So any change in the underlying data would be reflected in our data source in the Tableau. Okay, so but sometimes what happens is due to the network contingency or any of these problems, so what might happen is the live connection might not work all that well. It might be really slow. It might not perform well at all when you have, particularly when you have reports that have got like a millions and millions of records. So this is something that you would have to always keep in mind, that if there is a report which is having a lot of data coming in, and then probably you have your database set up on some other server in another part of the world, and then it's always suggested to really go for an extract instead of a live connection. And anyway, most of the BI reports you would probably have a weekly or a nightly refresh. If you want, you can actually do that, and then um, base your reports on those. So if I want to create an extract, how do I do it? So I can just go here, right click, and I can say extract data. So and you see here, when I'm going to extract the data, it is asking me some options. So it will give me some filter actions. So if I want to filter the data based on any of these dimensions that I have, I can do that. I can say city, and then I can probably ignore or exclude a particular city or include just a couple of cities. And on all those things I could do over here. And then I could do just aggregate the data which is being extracted, or I can do an incremental refresh if I want. So in general, you would actually go for an all rows for the first time, and then when you are setting up a schedule to refresh it based on your requirement, you could actually go for an all rows refresh or an incremental refresh, right? And this one over here is a very good useful feature to reduce your performance problems. Like sometimes what happens is you would have hundreds of columns in your database, or data source that you are connected to, but you might really be using only 10 or 15 columns for your reports. But then you would not want to not bring them into the data source, because you might want them tomorrow or the day after. So this is one way you can do. You can say hide all unused fields and then create the extract. So what this would do is, if I'm not using some of it, it would see what are the fields that are being used regularly, and then the remaining ones would be hidden, but would be taken into consideration, but would be hidden. Okay, so now I said okay. Um, Now it's showing me the save as dialog box, and it's giving me a name saying sample superstore subset Excel .tde. So TDE is nothing but a Tableau data extract file. Okay, and again, Tableau uses their proprietary algorithms over here to really compress the data. So what Tableau does is, using their algorithm, that it compresses the data and it stores it in such a format which makes it faster for Tableau to connect to a TDE and do the visualization, as opposed to connecting to the live database and doing the visualization. So this is always one of the better ways to do when performance is a criteria in your reports. So as a database, or I'm sorry, as a Tableau server admins, we would always have to know what kind of data source or what kind of a data connection is being used in a particular report. Because you might have requests coming in saying that, okay, why is this report taking too long? what is the problem or something of those sorts. So then we can immediately check whether this is a live connection or is this a extract. If it's a live connection, then we can suggest them, oh, hey, listen, this is a live connection and this is going to be slow for this reason. So we would suggest you do an extract, change your plan a bit, and then make it work on an extract instead of a live connection. So that's something that we can do as admin. So it's always better to know what is the data source, how many columns are there, and then what sort of connections are we using. All these things, it will always help us. So let me go and now save this extract. Okay, so now you see immediately what has happened is only the columns that I'm using have come up. Okay, and then you can see here that you see here double cylinder over here. Earlier you just saw one cylinder, now you're seeing two cylinders, and there's a tick mark over here which says there's an extract, and the tick mark says, okay, I am using the extract. So this is it, use extract. So it is using the extract, and then anytime you feel there is a update in the underlying database, you can go and do this refresh over here. The sales dashboard here. Now we have this dashboard, and we have the sales department item sales dashboard, and then we have it is working off an extract. Also, what we saw initially was that when we saved it as a TWB. So what does a TWB mean? A TWB means just a Tableau workbook, and the data and everything else is not along with this workbook. Okay, so if I want it to be a packaged workbook, so I would save it as TWBX. So this, when I do a TWBX, what it does is it, along with the workbook, it also packages the data along with it. Okay, so this is a nice way of packaging your workbook, and in many companies, they use this way, this method actually, to really save your packaged workbook and send it across to the users. If they are not using the server, they can send it to the users, email this workbook to the users, a packaged workbook, which can be opened and viewed and interacted with on using the Tableau reader. And the Tableau reader is a free software available from the Tableau, right? So this is one way of sharing your work with the business users. So anyway, this is always, you can always have a Tableau packaged workbook created and then send it across for publishing. So let me just save it as a TWBX now. Okay, so now this, what we're seeing here, is a TWBX. Okay, now let's go and publish this again. Okay, we saw in the previous class how to do to give this connection. Okay, give the user ID and password, and then say sign in. Okay, so let me go and select the new sales project that I created. And let me not put these two. Okay, and if you want to, now since we are working on an extract, you want to really schedule a extract. What I can do is I can just go and click here, and I can say fully refresh the extracts on the following schedule. So the Tableau Server gives us a few default schedules. One is the end of the month, one is the Saturday night, which is a weekly, and you can say a daily, weekday early morning refreshes. So generally, we one of this works. Like most of the the reports, which are BI reports, business would need it probably at 8 or 9 in the morning, but probably that's the first thing in the morning they would need, and it would probably be at 7 a.m. At the earliest. So we can have the extract run at 4 a.m. so that whatever was loaded last night into the data warehouse gets refreshed into our extract, and then the business user sees the most up-to-date data, right? Or we have weekly load happening into our data warehouse, then we could actually use this one so that whatever has been loaded till Friday night, gets loaded into our data source, which is the extract on every Saturday, right? Okay, so I'm gonna just say none and say here data source is Excel, and what user it has to run on authentication, and then say extract yes. So now since it's an Excel, we do not really need a username password, so there's nothing to give here. But if it was a real if it was a database that you're connected to, Oracle or a SQL Server, then you can embed your password. So that's one way of doing it, and you can embed your password, and then refresh the schedule would pick up this uh, password, use credentials, log into the server database, and then do the refresh. Okay, so let's now go ahead and publish it. There you go, it's got published. I can close this, and then I can navigate to the dashboard right from here. There you go. Okay, so we have our dashboard here. So when we kept talking about interaction, so a simple interaction that we built in this dashboard is the filtering based on the department, which is on the sheet on the top section of our dashboard. Okay, so we will probably build another couple of dashboards with some more interactions like the filters and the quick filters and the parameters, so that we understand a little bit more about these interactions um, that is available in Tableau, and we'll be talking about it a little later. So now let's just see this now. So we saw how it works in the desktop from the environment, development environment. Now let's see how it works in the on the server. So just click on the office supplies here, and you would see in the bottom section, yep, it has got filtered on the office supplies. And anything that I'm doing here right now is basically interaction, right? So I'm interacting with this dashboard. So what's happening when I interact with this dashboard is it's being redrawn, it's being rendered again. So this rendering is done by the visual process. Okay, so next what we will see is we will probably just update this workbook to have a couple more dashboards within that, and then we will see how to have these navigations on the server from one dashboard to the other, and then also within the just outside when we go into those projects, and see what all actions we can perform on the web interface.